Hey folks, Technivorous here. I have here an Anet A8 Plus and I've already cut open the box. So let's lift it off and see what's inside. Alright, so here we have it. Let's do this. I opened the case from the bottom as Corey Ann suggested, so that makes it easier to just kind of lift off the box. I'm going to go ahead and remove this here. See me walking through everywhere. Now, if I can get back in the picture here. You guys see the two styrofoam layers here. We'll go ahead and show you what's going on here. Alright, so now that we've gotten the box off, let's take a look at what's inside. There are a couple of tools in here I see. A little screwdriver. Pretty interesting little tool. We'll set that aside for now. Looks like some zip ties and a bunch of little finger condoms. Those look like to be the size of end caps, but they look like they're sticky tack, so we'll figure those out hopefully in the instructions there. A PLA sample. Now this is a send back unit, a return unit, so it has been used. You can tell they tried to use this filament here. Obviously they weren't having any luck with it. This is the blower tube for the motor for the hot end on this beast. Oop. That is a leveling knob, and there's some spare parts. Looks like there's a straight edge, another screwdriver, a wrench, some Allen wrenches, spring for the bed, which is missing from this corner I see. So we're going to go ahead and put all this back in the bag so we can keep it together, because we will be needing it all. And we will set that aside down here for now, I think. What we're going to do is remove the top layer of the bed here so we can get a look at what's in the layer beneath. So we'll just set that right now. Knock over a bunch of spools as we do it. Set that on the floor here. And you can see the next layer. Let's see what's going on here. This looks like the electronics and the rest of the frame. So, what kind of shape is this bad boy in? Yeah, the hot end. You can tell this is definitely a used model. Looks like lead screws are straight. Everything seems to be proper. Let's get some of these components out here. There's your cable cover. You're gonna want those guys. The power unit. Set that here as well. Spool holder. Anet does give you a lot of printed parts. This is a printed holder. It works though, it's effective. And mine mostly end up being printed anyway, because I'll make a mod or something like that. So, loose screw. Put that in the bag. This is the bracket, the magnetic bracket that mounts our screen here and keeps it vertical like that. So that's pretty cool. Board, all of the cables, all of the wiring. Kind of spread everything out here. I'm going to move this styrofoam here in a second. We'll get a little bit better view of what's going on. Alright, so here's the bed, and the first thing I'm going to want to do is make sure that I have these spacers on these L-shaped brackets loosened up. So that little nut there, you're going to want to back that off a little bit, and also try to ensure that it is sitting vertically, because we're going to slide the frame of the other piece onto it. So, and that's pretty simple. Everything's mostly put together. What we're going to do is slide this right over. And then bracing it up against there, we're going to tighten these down again. This is a pretty straightforward build. Most of it comes mostly assembled, so now, right away I'm noticing a couple of issues. This side here is not contacting the bottom bar, which means that this is in the way. So we're going to loosen it up. And lift the motor up just a little bit so we can ensure that this brace is square against here. And then we will tighten down the bottom bracket first because that's what we're trying to square. So we'll tighten that down. Good. And then we will place some pressure on the motor to ensure that it is snug where it needs to be and retighten these bolts as well. Yours might be square already, but I always like to double check. And we'll check the other side here too just to be sure. It looks like everything is good over here. So the next thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and get some of these machine screws here. Now these guys, these are the 4 we're looking for. So you're going to want to grab these out, and they're going to go through the bottom frame into the top frame. And you're just going to want to get them in there loosely at first and not tighten them down just yet. Oh, that's not tightened down at all. Okay, so what that was sometimes if you don't unscrew the nut far enough, when you tighten it back down, it won't turn into that V-slot and lock like you need it to. So I'm going to unscrew it some more, and I can see it now. We're going to make sure that it turns. There it goes. Again, making sure that it stays square. Next thing we're going to do is gently, and this is one of those instances where I wish the bed, when you first get it, there's zip tie clips here holding this so the bed won't slide on you. This one, like I said, has been used, so my bed will move if I don't brace it. So I need to just slowly let it down carefully here. And I'm going to insert the machine screws we were talking about into the bottom. And they should use the biggest Allen key that came in the package here. Let's see if I can dig that fat boy out. There we go. And I want to get them started to thread just a little bit so that I can ensure that they stay in. But I don't want to tighten them down just yet. Okay, actually this side I'm going to go ahead and tighten down, and the reason why is because they're going in very easily, which means that I am lined up with the holes properly over here. On the right side I am having a little bit of tension before I should, which means that I'm probably not properly lined up, so we're going to adjust that one just a little bit. Let's see if it'll go in. Oh, it's not getting any resistance. That should be good. What about this guy? Alright. Well, so if your screws aren't going in properly, what you need to do is loosen the bolt on the back here of this L bracket, on the bottom, excuse me, the one in contact with the lower part of the frame. And then as you're easing the bolt in here, adjust the bar so that the hole lines up properly. But it looks like we're good here. So, try not to fling that bed out when I flip this guy back up. There it goes. Also, I should mention, you want to pay attention to which side you're mounting these brackets on. The motors here should be on the front of the printer, because everything else is going to go back here. So I have the bed clip back here, which is good, and the motor back here. So the motor for the y-axis also plugs in the back, which is pretty standard. I have seen some that are reversed, but on this machine it is in the back. And then of course the dual Z. Now one of the things you're going to want to do with the dual Z is wind it all the way down as far as it can go on both sides, because that is the closest you're going to get to it keeping even. Now you can actually go in here and, unlike normal leveling your bed, when you have the dual Z, it is preferential to make sure that this is not necessarily level, but true to this. So that's not good. I mean, it's not absolutely necessary. You will most of your model will work out just fine. But what you're going to want to do is make sure this is square, and then level your bed against that, because that will help ensure that your bed is square as well and at that 90 degrees. So if you do the bed first and then this, I suppose that would work, but make sure you level the bed again after you change this, because as you can see, if on this dual Z system, if I screw just one of these up and down, I can move one side independently, and that's not a good thing. That means you can get off balance really easily. So if I can even go opposite ways here. It's hard to get my hands to go. There we go. And you can see it tilting, and we don't want that. That can cause pressures that you really don't want on your machine. So the best thing to do is lower it all the way down as far as it will go, to ensure that both sides are as level as possible. And then from there, once your end stop is set off over here, you can make minor adjustments to this side in order to line it up with this side. And we'll do that a little bit later. I don't need to necessarily do it right now, because as I'm adjusting and adding things, this is probably going to get thrown at askew anyway. So let's move on to the next step here of throwing together this A8 Plus. Now this next part I like to do in reverse, because there's a lot of wires here and the wiring is kind of different for each printer. I don't have the instructions on hand, but I have put one of these together before. So I am going to go ahead and hook up my cables and then determine where they run before hooking them into the actual board. So I have all my cables here. These are the motor cables. I have my end stop cables. Cables for the actual bed itself I'm going to just set aside for right now, because I know that that's practically a direct connection. What's up, love? What you doing? Alright, so basically everything that comes up over the top here is going to go through this gap here, and this is including the Z end stop and the X axis, all of that. So we need to pass these through the notch that looks like the shape of an HDMI port on the top of the case. I want to make sure that none of this is wrapped up and just kind of get everything to go through smoothly. So, oh, I just pull the plug. Hopefully I know what that is. So, hot end, thermistor, fan, and fan. Now we are going to do a lot about cable management in just a little bit. First we need to get everything plugged in, get the case screwed on, and then we can pull our cables out to the lengths that we want. And as you can see, this is the hot end, this is the bed here, and they definitely need some attention as far as wrapping and stuff like that. So we are going to take care of that for sure. Coming right up here. But first we need to go to the board and plug everything in. Now this part's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to go ahead and turn the printer around and see if we can get a little bit better view of the board here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but we can try. Set some of this on the floor. I don't want to lose my case screws there either. Oop, power plug. Oh, we need these guys as well. And these are also going to get passed through our bottom plug there. Make sure you get the LCD into the LCD and the J3 into the J3 there. So I'm gonna put these over here. So set that there for now. Pass this under here and also through the lower part of this here. Spool holder can go on the ground, cable ties. Should we hang on all of that? And we're gonna fast forward through some of this wiring pretty quick. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. I know I'm going kind of fast for some of you, but it is pretty self-explanatory. All of the clips have labels on both ends, and all of the plugs are clearly defined on the board. So all you have to do is find the right plug that goes to the right clip and clip them in, other than these three on the bottom here. Now the three plugins on the bottom are your power, and then your heat to the bed and heat to the hot end. So Those are also clearly marked if you pay attention to where they're going, so fairly straightforward. I'm just going to plug these guys in here. I believe the first time actually I plugged the thermistor into the bed and the bed into the thermistor. Yep, there we go. And I had to switch them around. But that is correct. So then after that, I just started plugging everything else up. So these are pretty good. They just slide in between those two plates. You screw down the screws. And then the last set was actually missing the little metal clips, so I just made sure that they were properly lodged in there and that there was no contact outside of the case so it can't short, and we are good to go. And that is the plug for the screens. Pop those in up the top right there and just keep reading the labels and putting things where they need to go. It does take a few minutes. Now this process took me about 45 minutes to an hour, somewhere in there, to get everything wired up properly and then to wrap all the wiring harnesses. So I figured instead of making this a 2-hour video, we would just fast forward through some of these parts, and here we are. So getting pretty close to wrapping up a lot of the plugs in here. We're going to get the last couple in before we put on the case. As I said, just make sure you're paying attention to the labels that there's those two I was talking about that don't have the metal plates. They still went in fairly easy. You just want to make sure they're pinched between the two plates that are already there. And we are good to go. Not looking too bad. So we're going to screw in the case these two bolts behind it. They go into the frame, and then there's two bolts that go into the bottom of the frame as well. And once you get that on, you are pretty much done with the wiring, and now you need to just kind of clean it up and take care of your wire control. So what I'm doing here is taking the wire wrap that they had with the package and basically wrapping it around the exposed wires to keep them all in a group and kind of help with their bend and flow. That way they're not getting in the way or getting pinched by anything, and they're all in one place. And wire management is a big deal. You don't want loose wires all Mickey Mouse hanging out everywhere. Not only does it look bad, but it can be a hazard in several ways. So we're going to continue watching me fast forward through wrapping this. This does take quite a long time. This is probably the most labor intensive part of this. And then again, it is something really simple to do. All you're doing is going around groups of wires. So it's easy, but kind of boring when you're excited about getting your first print out of the printer and you have to just sit there and wrap wires and stare at the thing for a long period of time. But this is actually the second A8 Plus that I have put together. The first one was a return unit and was not in as good a shape as this one. This one has gone together really easily, really well. Everything seems to be pretty much perfect. And I can tell you at the time that I'm recording the voiceover for this, I have gotten some prints off of there and I am pretty impressed. So we'll be coming out with a full review of this printer and let you know exactly what I think after I spend a little bit more time with it and test out its capacity to print some larger models. But for now, suffice it to say, I'm pretty happy with what I will show you. Here it is. I will show you the results in just a second because I have gotten some cool prints off of this thing and I'm excited to show them off. The first things I printed were all test prints that were on the disc. There were a lot of test prints on here and a couple of them kind of had me chuckling a little bit, so it was a pretty fun experience all in all. Well, there you have it, the unboxing, assembly, and first prints of the Anet A8 Plus. Now, so far I'm really enjoying this machine. As I said earlier, I will have a full review for it later. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like down below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button because we're always opening and reviewing new printers and updating you on the latest and greatest in 3D printing tech. Also, don't forget to smash that notification button so you can get notified every time we put up new videos. Thanks, guys. As always, this channel is brought to you by these fine Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support the channel on Patreon, head over to www.patreon.com/Technivorous. That's going to be it for this video. As always, I am Technivorous, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out our main channel page where we do a free giveaway for our subscribers every month. So far, we've given away things like a Capricorn PTFE tubing kit and spools of filament. So the giveaway videos are always pinned to our main channel page.
So all you have to do is subscribe and leave a comment on the giveaway video for the current contest. Feel free to check out this video right here. YouTube picked it from my content just for you, and if you haven't already, you can hit the subscribe button right here. So what are you waiting for? Become a Technivore now. Thanks again. Technivorous out.